Welcome to today's deep dive into three seemingly ordinary quarters that might be hiding extraordinary value in your collection or pocket change. While most people overlook these everyday coins, savvy collectors know that certain years and mint marks can transform a simple 25-cent piece into a treasure worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Today, we're exploring the 1995, 1966, and 1970 Washington quarters, coins that many Americans have handled without realizing their potential worth. These aren't just historical artifacts, they're hidden gems that could be sitting right under your nose. Let's start with the 1995 Washington quarter. At first glance, this coin appears completely unremarkable. Millions were minted, and they circulated widely throughout the United States. However, like many coins from this era, specific varieties and errors have elevated certain examples from common currency to collector's items. The Washington Quarter series began back in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and by 1995, it had become a familiar fixture in American commerce. Most 1995 quarters were produced at the Philadelphia and Denver mints for circulation, with San Francisco striking special proof versions for collectors. What makes certain 1995 quarters valuable lies primarily in their errors and high-grade preservation. While the typical circulated 1995 quarter is worth exactly 25 cents, several factors can dramatically increase its value. Error coins from this year are particularly sought after by collectors. These include double-die obverse varieties where elements of Washington's portrait appear doubled, off-center strikes where the design isn't properly aligned on the planchet, and coins struck on wrong planchets intended for other denominations. These errors occurred when something went awry during the minting process, creating unique specimens that stand out from the millions of perfectly struck quarters. The market value for 1995 quarters varies tremendously based on these factors. A typical circulated example from pocket change carries no premium, but uncirculated specimens can fetch between $1 and $3. The real value emerges with error coins. A 1995 quarter with a noticeable double die might sell for $50 to $200, while dramatic off-center strikes can command several $100s. At the highest end of the market, pristine examples graded MS-67 or better have sold for $100 to $300, as finding these late 20th century coins in near-perfect condition is surprisingly challenging. Proof versions from San Francisco mint sets typically trade for $3 to $10, with exceptional deep cameo examples reaching $15 to $50. One fascinating aspect of the 1995 quarter is how it represents a transitional period in coin collecting. This was the era when the internet was beginning to transform the hobby, allowing collectors to easily share information about varieties and errors. Before online forums and auction sites, many of these valuable varieties might have gone unnoticed by all but the most specialized collectors. Today, a collector in Nebraska can instantly share images of a potential double die with experts across the country, leading to faster identification and attribution of valuable varieties. This technological shift has democratized the hobby and made it easier for casual collectors to discover hidden treasures in their change. Condition plays a crucial role in determining the value of 1995 quarters. As with most modern coins, the difference between a circulated example and an uncirculated one can be substantial. Circulated 1995 quarters, even those with only light wear, are generally worth face value. Uncirculated examples in grades MS-60 through MS-66 typically sell for $1 to $10, depending on eye appeal and other factors. The jump in value comes at the gem uncirculated level. Coins graded MS-67 or better become much scarcer and can command $20 to $100 or more. For proof coins, the contrast between the frosted design elements and mirrored fields determines much of the value. Standard proof examples might sell for $3 to $10, while those with exceptional deep cameo contrast can reach $15 to $50. Error coins follow their own pricing structure, with values ranging from $50 to $500 or more depending on the type and severity of the error. For collectors searching through bank rolls or examining their existing collections, the 1995 quarter offers an accessible entry point into error coin collecting. Unlike many valuable coins that require significant financial investment, searching for these varieties costs nothing more than face value. The thrill of the hunt, examining each coin for doubling, misalignment, or other anomalies, adds an element of excitement to the hobby. While finding a valuable error requires patience and a keen eye, the possibility of discovering a $100 or $500 coin in a roll of quarters keeps many collectors coming back to this seemingly ordinary year. The 1995 quarter reminds us that in numismatics, extraordinary value can sometimes hide in the most ordinary places. Now let's turn our attention to the 1966 Washington quarter. While it shares the same familiar design as its 1995 counterpart, this coin represents a fascinating and often overlooked chapter in American numismatic history, the brief era of silver-clad coinage. This was a time of significant transition for U.S. coinage, driven by economic necessity, and the 1966 quarter sits right in the middle of that shift. Millions were minted, yet finding truly pristine examples today is surprisingly challenging, making high-grade specimens highly desirable for collectors. If you have a 1966 quarter tucked away, especially if it looks brand new, you might be holding on to something more valuable than you realize. The story behind the 1966 quarter begins with the Coinage Act of 1965. By the mid-1960s, the rising price of silver had made the intrinsic value of U.S. silver coins exceed their face value, leading to widespread hoarding and a severe shortage of coins for everyday commerce. To combat this, Congress passed the act, authorizing the removal of silver from dimes and quarters starting in 1965. However, the transition wasn't instantaneous. For 1965, 1966, and 1967, the U.S. Mint produced quarters and dimes, using a unique, silver-clad composition, a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of 80% silver and 20% copper. This gave the coin an overall silver content of 40%, significantly less than the previous 90% silver coins but still containing precious metal. Crucially, during these 3 transition years, the Mint deliberately omitted mint marks, P, D, or S, from all coins to discourage further hoarding and speculation. This means every 1966 quarter, regardless of where it was struck, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, looks identical on the surface. What makes the 1966 quarter valuable today isn't typically dramatic errors like double dies, but rather its silver content and, most importantly, its condition. While billions were minted, the vast majority entered circulation and show significant wear. The real value lies in finding uncirculated examples or those from the special mint sets produced that year. Identifying a silver-clad 1966 quarter is straightforward. Look at the coin's edge. Unlike the modern copper-nickel-clad quarters with a distinct copper stripe, the 1966 silver-clad quarter has a solid, uniform silver-colored edge. Its weight is also slightly different, 6.25 grams compared to the 5.67 grams of later copper-nickel quarters. The absence of a mint mark is another key identifier for these transition years. While common in circulated grades, the scarcity jumps dramatically in higher mint states because many people save these coins specifically for their silver content, often handling them carelessly or storing them improperly, leading to bag marks and toning. The market value for a 1966 quarter varies enormously based on condition. A typical circulated example showing where is primarily worth its silver melt value, which fluctuates with the silver market but generally sits around $3 to $4 today. However, once you move into uncirculated territory, the value increases significantly. An example in MS-60 condition might fetch $5 to $10. In MS-63, expect $10 to $20. The real action starts at MS-65, where prices jump to $25 to $50. Gem uncirculated examples graded MS-66 can command $75 to $150. The pinnacle is MS-67, where prices soar to $200 to $500, and exceptionally rare MS-68 examples have reached $1,000 or more at auction. For instance, a stunning 1966 quarter-graded MS-68 by PCGS sold for an impressive $1,295 in a recent auction. Beyond regular business strikes, the 1966 Special Mint Set, SMS, coins hold particular value. These were specially produced coins with a superior finish, struck on polished dies using specially prepared planchets. A 1966 SMS quarter in SP65 might be worth $15 to $30, but in top grades like SP68, they become true prizes, with one example selling for $3,525. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 1966 quarter is the story behind the special mint sets themselves. During the transition years, the mint struggled to meet the demand for proof sets while simultaneously ramping up production of the new clad coinage. As a solution, they created these special mint sets, which contained coins with a finish distinct from both regular business strikes and traditional proofs. The SMS coins were struck multiple times under higher pressure, resulting in sharper details and a satiny, almost proof-like appearance, but without the mirrored fields of a true proof. They were packaged in special holders and sold directly to collectors. Crucially, the San Francisco Assay Office, which hadn't produced coins for circulation since 1955, was tasked with striking these SMS coins, even though no mint mark appeared on them. This hidden connection to San Francisco adds a layer of historical significance. Furthermore, the decision to remove mint marks entirely was a bold, almost unprecedented move by the mint, reflecting the seriousness of the coin shortage. Imagine the confusion and speculation among collectors at the time. This period also saw a massive influx of new collectors into the hobby, driven by the excitement of the changeover and the desire to save the last silver coins, which ironically contributed to the scarcity of high-grade examples today. Many were saved, but few were saved perfectly. Condition is absolutely paramount when valuing a 1966 quarter. As mentioned, circulated examples are essentially bullion pieces, valued solely for their 40% silver content. The value curve rises steeply as you enter the uncirculated grades. Finding a 1966 quarter without any wear is the first hurdle. The next challenge is finding one free of significant bag marks, those nicks and scratches acquired during mass production and handling. Coins graded MS65 and above must have exceptional eye appeal, with minimal marks and attractive, original luster. Toning can be a double-edged sword. Attractive, natural toning can enhance value, while unattractive or artificial toning can diminish it. For the special mint set coins, the criteria are even stricter. The quality of the strike and the presence of the characteristic satiny finish are critical. Top-grade SP68 SMS coins are incredibly rare because the production process, while superior to regular strikes, still wasn't as tightly controlled as traditional proof production. Authentication by a major grading service like PCGS or NGC is highly recommended for any uncirculated 1966 quarter, especially SMS examples, due to the potential for confusion with later copper-nickel coins and the significant value difference between grades. If you have a 1966 quarter that looks like it just left the mint, it's definitely worth getting it professionally evaluated. It could be a hidden gem worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars. Now we come to the final coin in our trio of potentially valuable quarters, the 1970 Washington quarter. This coin marks a fascinating endpoint in the silver quarter saga and holds a secret that many casual collectors, and even some seasoned ones, might miss. While millions upon millions were made, a specific, easily overlooked detail transforms certain 1970 quarters from common pocket change into highly sought-after prizes. If you have a 1970 quarter tucked away, especially one that looks brand new, pay close attention. You could be holding a piece of numismatic history worth a small fortune. The story of the 1970 quarter is intrinsically linked to the events we discussed with the 1966 coin. By 1970, the U.S. Mint had fully transitioned away from silver for circulating coinage. The standard composition for quarters minted for circulation in 1970 was the copper-nickel clad we know today, a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. However, there was a crucial exception: the coins intended for the 1970 uncirculated coin sets, often called mint sets, and the 1970 proof sets. These collector sets were struck using the old silver-clad composition, 40% silver overall, 80% silver outer layers over a pure copper core. This wasn't widely advertised at the time, creating a hidden treasure. Furthermore, while the Philadelphia and San Francisco mints were busy producing these silver coins for the sets, the Denver Mint was striking billions of the standard copper-nickel-clad quarters for everyday circulation. Here's the critical twist: due to a production quirk or oversight, some of the silver-clad quarters intended for the San Francisco Mint sets were accidentally struck without the S mint mark. These are the legendary 1970 S silver quarters struck without a mint mark, the rarest and most valuable of the 1970 quarters. Identifying a valuable 1970 quarter hinges entirely on distinguishing between the common copper-nickel circulation strikes and the scarce silver-clad collector coins, particularly those missing the S mint mark. First, check the edge. A standard copper-nickel quarter has a very obvious, distinct copper stripe running through the middle of the edge. A silver-clad quarter, 40% silver, has a solid, uniform, silver-colored edge, no copper stripe visible. Second, weigh it. A copper-nickel quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver-clad quarter weighs 6.25 grams. A simple kitchen scale can often detect this difference. Third, look for the mint mark. If you have a silver-clad quarter, confirmed by edge and weight, check the obverse, front, just below Washington's neck. If there is no mint mark where the S should be, you've potentially found the jackpot. If it has an S, it's still a valuable silver coin, just significantly less rare than the no mint mark version. If it has a D, it's a common copper-nickel circulation strike worth face value. The small date variety, where the 7 in 1970 is level with the 9 and 0, is also noted on some silver examples, adding another layer of collectability, though the mint mark absence is the primary driver of extreme value. The market value for 1,970 quarters presents one of the most dramatic spreads in modern U.S. coinage. A typical circulated 1970 D quarter found in change is worth exactly 25 cents. Even an uncirculated copper-nickel 1970 D might only fetch $1 to $3. However, once we enter the silver-clad territory, the values climb rapidly. A standard 1970 S silver quarter from a proof set, graded PR 65, might sell for $5 to $10. An uncirculated 1970 S silver quarter from a mint set, graded MS 65, could be worth $10 to $20. Now, for the star of the show, the 1970 silver quarter without the S mint mark. Values here are astronomical compared to the norm. In circulated condition, though finding one circulated is incredibly unlikely, it might still fetch several $100s just for its silver content and rarity. In uncirculated grades, the prices explode. An example graded MS-60 might sell for $1,000 to $2,000. Jump to MS-63, and you're looking at $3,000 to $5,000. In gem uncirculated MS-65, prices typically range from $7,000 to $12,000. The pinnacle is truly breathtaking. A stunning 1970 silver quarter graded MS-67 by PCGS, without the mint mark, sold for a staggering $35,250 at auction in 2016. Even in MS-66, these coins consistently command $15,000 to $25,000. The small date variety on a no mint mark silver example can add a significant premium, sometimes doubling the value of an already rare coin. The story behind the 1970 No-S silver quarter is a perfect storm of mint transition, collector oversight, and sheer luck. The U.S. Mint was still ironing out the kinks of mass-producing both the new copper-nickel coins for circulation and the old silver composition coins for collector sets simultaneously. The San Francisco Mint was responsible for both the proof sets and the uncirculated mint sets in 1970. The theory is that a small number of silver planchets intended for the mint-marked coin somehow entered the press without the mint-mark die being engaged, or perhaps a die lacking the S was used accidentally. Crucially, these coins weren't discovered until years later. Collectors initially assumed all silver quarters from 1970 sets had the S. It wasn't until sharp-eyed individuals noticed the absence of the mint mark on some examples and confirmed their silver content that the rarity was realized. Imagine being the first person to realize that a seemingly ordinary quarter from a 1970 set, missing a tiny letter, was worth thousands. This discovery highlights the importance of meticulous examination in numismatics. The 1970 NOS silver quarter also represents the absolute end of an era, the last time the U.S. Mint produced silver quarters for any purpose. It's a tangible link to the closing chapter of over 170 years of silver coinage in everyday American life. The fact that this final chapter includes such a dramatic and valuable error makes it all the more compelling. Condition is the absolute king when valuing the 1970 NOS silver quarter. While its rarity is immense regardless of grade, the difference between a moderately worn example and a pristine gem is measured in tens of thousands of dollars. As mentioned, finding one in circulation is virtually unheard of, they were only included in collector sets. Therefore, most survivors are at least uncirculated. However, the quality of that uncirculated state varies wildly. Many were removed from sets and handled, acquiring fingerprints, minor scratches, or developing unattractive toning. Counterfeits exist, and the value difference between a common 1970 D copper-nickel quarter and a genuine NOS silver quarter is simply too vast to risk without expert verification. If you have a 1970 quarter that looks like it just left the mint, check its edge and weight first. If it's silver, then scrutinize the area below Washington's neck for that missing S. Finding one would be like discovering the final, hidden page of a great American numismatic story. So there you have it, the 1995, 1966, and 1970 Washington quarters. 3 coins from the modern era that, on the surface, seem utterly ordinary. Yet, as we've seen, each holds a unique secret that can transform its value from pocket change to a significant collector's item. Whether it's the elusive errors and high-grade gems of the 1995, the transitional silver-clad history and condition sensitivity of the 1966, or the legendary NOS silver status of the 1970, these quarters prove that extraordinary value often hides in plain sight. They remind us that in coin collecting, knowledge is the real treasure, and sometimes the most exciting discoveries are the ones waiting right in our own collections or even in the change we handle every day. Keep looking closely, keep learning the details, and you never know, you might just uncover a piece of history worth far more than 25 cents.